Welcome to Now Serving, a Side of Therapy, your intro guide into the therapeutic world. Together, we'll explore various aspects around how to show up for ourselves and others by tending to our own mental and emotional well-being. I'm your host, Dalton Huckabee, a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I'm grateful you've joined me. The topics that we're choosing, to discuss, right, really are kind of unique and have a specific focus in and of themselves. So it is with the intention and idea here that we do kind of, or that we are like addressing these areas or these topics of discussion in a pretty specific way, right, as it kind of relates to what the client's coming in for, in this case, trauma with SI for minors, right? But being able to kind of address talk about and address the situation in a way that is kind of digestible for people too.
Yeah, because what I've noticed as well is a lot of times people are not ready to hear about the happiness chemicals, right? It sounds very cliche. It sounds, like that's not going to work for me. We'll automatically shut the door on something that sounds so optimistic in the moment of feeling so low, right? So as you mentioned, meeting the client where they're at, it is very important to validate the depth of what they're experiencing and the emotional pain that comes up with that. So sometimes I will kind of start more with those physiological techniques.
And so I always like to think about whenever we're getting like into interventions, right? We can think, okay, well, what's the research like, on this, right? People might think about, well, what's the efficacy, right? And the and kind of evidence-based practices, right? That might apply to some of these things that we talk in session, especially when it comes to interventions. And so I was just curious, like, do you know of I just can't help but think about, like, do you know if there's been like some research around this technique that's out there?
Well, I've done some research on these techniques, if that counts.
Definitely counts. Yeah, definitely counts.
When I was in
grad
school, I had quite a few classes, particularly on the physiological impacts of, and the body-brain connection, and seeing the benefits of these physical actions, yoga, right? And how that specifically how that can have that direct connection with your brain, right? I don't have, those sites off the top of my mind, but
that's okay. Yeah.
When I wrote that research paper of mine in grad school, I called from a lot of different research projects that were focused specifically on this body-brain connection that showed, evidence to support, improved physical health. Sometimes people with chronic pain, chronic medical conditions had seen improvement in their physical symptoms after practicing calming mindfulness.
And so you might even, as a result, see a change in their posture too, right? Because of that. Yeah. And so I'll often kind of go to this other side just to challenge things a little bit, right? Because what listeners might be thinking of is like, well, how do I know this works, right? You know what I mean? Like, for some reason, my brain just goes there. And so that's why I asked the question too. Like, yes, so there is information out there about showing how these practices have had certain reduced in symptomatic expression, for example.
Yeah, it's definitely a new realm. It's a new realm of therapeutic techniques. I do remember when I wrote my research paper, it was more difficult to find, social scientific studies on this topic, but they're definitely out there and have definitely shown significant results with regards to understanding this body-brain connection and how basically understanding it can give you more power. That's what I'll often say. It gives you more power of being able to manage your emotions, emotional regulation, de-escalation in moments of stress, right? And being able to really check yourself when feeling overstimulated, right? Being able to acknowledge too, am I feeling overstimulated? What can I do? Possibly overstimulation, that's a whole other topic. It comes from all sorts of things: heat, noise, texture, temperature, all sorts of things that, if you're aware of that, you can also see, I just need to go lie in a dark room for a few minutes to kind of reset from those external sensory triggers. So that also goes hand in hand. So the personal piece is for clients to have that awareness and practice, but the family piece also is teaching them, look, these coping skills help your son. These coping skills help your daughter. So in moments of crisis, you can help remind them to use some of these. You can help give them also encouraging phrases, rather than, parents calling them out saying you don't need to do this right now, or you're wrong for thinking this way. Encouraging them with the more optimistic approach of validation, right? Maybe with regards to arguments in the home, if everyone is on board with, having a safe word that expresses when somebody needs a break, expresses when the conversation has escalated too high. Some cases, the safe word could be reset. If you want, you can say, I need a reset.
Great choice.
It could be anything you want, right? But being able to use something like that to just convey to the people around you, this is what I'm going through, and this is what I'm going to do to take care of myself.
Easy and doable, right?
Yes.
And it's something that they will actually do, right? If we
Yes.
try to identify some kind of complicated thing, then maybe they have to drive 15 miles to do the thing, right? Or it might take an hour or whatever it is, right? Least likely to do it. But if it's short and simple, right, and feasible, then they're more likely to engage in the activity.
Absolutely. And this could really be a whole list of things for people, right? It can be taking a hot shower, or
dancing as a way to just kind of like get stuff out. I'm like, hey, that's great. You instinctively are already doing the thing to process what's building up inside you.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be these fancy techniques that I teach, but also any sort of physical movement, right? Going on a walk, dancing, taking a hot shower, having your blanket, right? If you feel comfortable in a blanket, journaling out your thoughts, right? And this can be very helpful, especially for urges, when children have urges to engage in self-harm, right? This is where we'll really emphasize practicing and remembering what are these distraction coping skills, or little activities that you mentioned that are simple in the moment that you can do. Watching your favorite show, right? All sorts of things that can help.
And something I heard too that might help when in this kind of soothing and calming aspect is, does the, especially when it comes to kids too, right? Like, do they have a safe place, like a designated area at home where they can go to and practice this stuff? Because a lot of things, when we think about integrating new behaviors, right, when we talk about the repetition, part of that repetition is in the same space as the environment. And so if they have a place to go in home where they practice these things, right, they're more likely to say, okay, now I get to go to my safe space, or wherever this is time for me, right? And so they might be a little bit more engaged and involved to the thing if it's like their own thing.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of clients will say they feel comfortable having space in their room, right, going to their bed. But I can see, depending on certain experiences, you might need a different location to feel safe. So being able to explore what feels good for you. Is it, having yourself surrounded by your favorite blanket, or your stuffed animal, or being in, the kitchen where you get to cook because you love cooking, or the couch where you get to watch your favorite movie. So all sorts of different places. Everybody is different with regards to these coping skills, and really being able to explore what's useful for you, what feels comfortable for you, and what can you hold on to in those moments of feeling so low, to help you really see the light on the other side, to help you get through the cloud that feels overwhelming in the moment.
Things that they can practice on their own in between sessions, because that's where a lot of the real work is, right? And the progress too.
Sometimes it is very difficult, to think long term after experiencing trauma, right? It kind of warps the mind to not create long-term goals. It almost feels, like that's impossible, or, just trying to survive in the day-to-day. So I also like to validate that as well, saying, sometimes the goal is going to be to get through just the week. Sometimes
Yeah,
the
and
goal is
maybe
to get
that
to.
thought in mantra could, sorry to interrupt, right? But maybe that thought mantra could be like, they can't hurt me now, I'm safe.
Mhm. Just to get through the day or a few hours is still something that you can mark as progress and success, right? To acknowledge those little wins along the way is also part of the journey, right? Even if that long term feels unattainable right now, that's okay. We're going to work with today, tomorrow, check in. What can you do in these moments to acknowledge your progress and to feel better one day at a time?
Yeah, and that's even part of that, the kind of system being activated, right? Is wanting to see those results now, right? I want to see the results now, right? Like there's just want that desire, right? And innate urge to want to be able to heal from the pain, right? Instead of carrying it around, right? Being able to want to try to see those results more immediately. Like I could see how that'd be a common, draw.
So being able to just also use psychoeducation, that it is really a process, right? Even if you're feeling really, really good, you might also have another setback. So it's not always linear, it goes up and down, but being able to believe and see day to day, what did I enjoy from today? Right? How did I feel after I repeated these encouraging thoughts to myself in the morning when I set my intention for the day? They say the first 5 minutes of the day, your brain is the most receptive to external influences. Right? So if you wake up and just look at your phone and see something about the news that feels discouraging, or see something on social media that leads to comparison and insecurity, or if you wake up late and you're feeling rushed, it's going to be more likely that you feel more stressed and anxious throughout the day. But if you wake up and really intentionally possibly do some of these techniques, right? It could be stretching, could be the deep breathing, could be the muscle tension, could be
And
mantras.
light exposure as well, right?
Light
Light exposure
exposure.
earlier on is like lots of right evidence around that. Huberman, right? Huberman's lab will talk about that a lot.
Absolutely. Light exposure, right? If you can create even just 5 minutes space out of your day in the morning to really set yourself up for an intentional day, and just see, right? See
Yeah,
how you feel that day.
it's a great point because a lot of this really is intentional. Well, yeah. Well, thanks for presenting, this reset option, right? Again, something that is can be practiced anywhere. It's easy to practice, right? And can help provide some calming and some security to individuals whose central nervous systems might feel a little bit overwhelmed, right, due to some kind of impact of trauma that they've experienced. And yeah, again, we're just kind of looking at ways to how can we increase that mind-body connection again.
Mhm. Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me back. Very happy to continue spreading awareness on some of these very important topics.
Thanks for tuning in this week. Be sure to check out our next episode as we continue to explore more elements of your therapeutic journey.